To make agricultural supply chains work, the traditional logic is simple: move more volume and cut more costs. But relying on volume alone traps farmers in a cycle of shrinking margins and constant price wars. When prices fluctuate, the people at the bottom of the chain, the rural farming communities, absorb the shock. This volatility locks them into low-income brackets, stalling any real grassroots economic development. To see how a community breaks this cycle, we look at the Saba banana, or Klue Hin, primarily grown in Thailand's Yala province. In its most basic commercial form, it is often sold as simple bags of fried chips. But this specific crop is unique. Since 2011, the Yala Saba banana has held Geographical Indication, or GI certification, a legal status proving it possesses qualities distinct to its specific geographic origin. Thailand's 20-year national strategy mandates building a stable, prosperous, and sustainable economy. To hit that target at the community level, local indigenous crops like the Saba banana must be translated into high-value assets. Doing that requires abandoning the old volume-based agricultural model. Regional economies must engineer a demand-driven value chain. Saving a grassroots agricultural economy depends on restructuring the economic machinery using raw, quantitative consumer data. This chart shows the optimized, eco-friendly value chain model designed specifically for the GI Saba banana. The ecosystem is divided into 3 distinct zones: upstream farmers sourcing raw material, midstream processors creating value, and downstream consumers driving demand. Every connection in this architecture functions as a direct structural reaction to quantitative market realities. To understand why it was built this way, we must reverse engineer the map. We will start at the end of the line and work backwards. Every intervention in this supply chain is justified by strict statistical demand, turning a generic flowchart into an evidence-based master plan. Our starting point is the far right of the network, the downstream consumer. There is an assumption in agricultural economics that premium certifications and eco-friendly branding only matter to high-income urban export markets. The prevailing logic assumes rural consumers optimize purely for cheap prices. This chart breaks down quantitative data from 400 regional Saba banana consumers. Out of 5 points, both product and price scored an exceptionally high 4.71. Isolating that product score, consumers specifically cited 3 requirements: FDA approval, halal certification, and eco-friendly processing. And that high score for price means consumers are not searching for the lowest absolute cost. They are optimizing for perceived value for money relative to those exact safety and quality standards. These data points establish the baseline for entry. To reach this market, a community enterprise must meet clinical levels of production quality. Grassroots consumers demand the same premium health and safety standards as high-income export markets, forcing the entire supply chain to upgrade. We need to know exactly who within this regional economy insists on strict product traceability. This table details a chi-square test measuring how personal demographics impact consumer behavior. The asterisks indicate a p-value under 0.05, confirming a highly significant influence on purchasing habits. Notice the specific clusters around education level, occupation, and consumption experience. The math translates to a specific profile. Single consumers who hold bachelor's degrees and work as civil servants exhibit distinct psychological traits that dictate their buying decisions. Because of their background, this demographic is highly attuned to health and environmental issues. Their demand for FDA and halal certifications is a practical requirement based on elevated safety awareness. Target marketing in grassroots agriculture relies on verified data. These demographic profiles tell the supply chain exactly who they serve and the standards to meet. Knowing what the consumer demands, we move one step backwards into the midstream node, where raw materials change hands. If the end consumer requires FDA-certified, high-value eco-products, midstream processors cannot survive by simply trading raw bunches of fruit. The architecture has to pivot. Here in the midstream section, the raw Saba bananas branch out into designated value creation and processing channels. This is what that pivot looks like in the real world. The raw commodity is transformed into a portfolio of ready packaged goods. Production expands to high-value derivatives from every part of the plant, including specialized banana flour and natural skincare lines. This stage is critical.
Here, mandatory FDA, halal, and good manufacturing practice certifications are actively earned, vetted, and applied to the final product. The midstream pivot acts as the defense mechanism for the regional economy. It converts a vulnerable raw crop into a diversified catalog of certified goods, insulating the community from raw commodity price crashes. Finally, we follow the chain back to its ultimate origin point, the upstream farmers in the Banning Sata district. For the midstream processors to secure their high-level certifications, the upstream agricultural practices have to supply impeccable raw material. The data forces a change at the community level. Look at the upstream inputs. Cultivation methods and maintenance are strictly regimented to support downstream demands. These practices operate under Thailand's sufficiency economy philosophy, a localized framework that dictates clean, organic, and eco-friendly farming techniques right at the source. Implementing this requires systematic capacity building. Local farmers have to be trained in advanced quality control standards, managing their soil and crops with the exactness of a laboratory. Those downstream marketing certifications are impossible to achieve without upstream agricultural integrity. The entire economic engine relies heavily on the clean sourcing of its raw materials. When we zoom back out, we see the fully engineered system from end to end. The research proves a structural inversion. The value chain is no longer a physical conveyor belt pushing goods blindly. Instead, the system operates bidirectionally. Quantitative data, like the demand for halal and FDA standards, flows backward from the consumer. That data dictates exactly what physical goods flow forward. Consumer health and environmental consciousness act as the governing laws of structural capital allocation. Maintaining this network requires robust supporting activities running constantly in the background, aggressive financial management, specialized local training, and continuous entrepreneurship development. By treating quantitative consumer behavior analytics as a strict architectural blueprint, regional policymakers can transform any indigenous agricultural resource into a self-sustaining, optimized regional economy.